Hi, and welcome to Shush the Talk Show. Did you know that when you watch the ads that pre-roll in completion before the episode, it helps us generate funding for our show? If you like what we do and you'd like to support us, please subscribe and share the channel with everyone you know. You can also continue learning about the subjects that we discuss by reading our column in the Sunday morning newspaper.
So, we're at the final show. I have some names here in our guest list who I don't think I need to introduce any of them.
But some people have said, I am Madhusegaran, like Kanta Patil can't be a girl, no one in short hair.
Do you get that as well?
What's it? Now you got a privilege. You have no womb and you will not get pregnant. At least now use your feminine to get and do something for yourself.
It might sound a little sexist, but the future is female.
What you want eventually is to become the necessity. You don't want people in the room because your gender background. You want to be in the room because they can't actually solve the problem without you.
What happens when you have your period on Mount Everest or in the middle of the ocean?
Suck it up, princess.
So, we're at the final show, and it's another season that's over. Unbelievable, the fact that we've actually done a whole second season. Didn't think we'd get this far. We've talked about so many things this season. We've talked about, we started with suicide. We've talked about things like human trafficking. We've talked about conservation. We've talked about so many things that have been important to so many people, and the only reason we're still here is because you guys feel us, you relate to us, you keep calling us, and you give us suggestions for this show, and that's what's going to keep this going. Today's show is happening in a very special space, Colombo Cooperative, which is in Colombo 3. They were very, very kind to offer us the space to do our season finale. It's a wonderful co-working space, and especially if you're a young entrepreneur out there, it's not easy to start a business. It's not easy to start any project really, and when you're looking for a community that will support you, a community that can come together and help you out and share ideas and network and grow together, you should look into co-working spaces. It keeps your budget low as well when you're just starting out on business. And this is one such space, Colombo Cooperative, and I don't know if you can see behind me, it says your potential is endless. And that's what they believe. It's a really, really nice space, very chilled out. And because it's the season finale, I have some names here in our guest list who I don't think I need to introduce any of them. One is obviously the deeper seas. We have Asha Divorce. We'll call you Dr. Asha.
I mean, whatever you want, really.
And then on land or in the sky or wherever you see her next is Jayanti Kurultumpala, and in that whole patriarchal corporate world where women are kind of breaking boundaries in a different way, we have Dr. Sulochana Segera who's here. And why I wanted to do this show is not simply to show you just how inspirational women can be. We've been talking about a lot of social issues, and we've been talking about issues that matter to women as well. But I wanted to let you know that regardless of what we go through in life, we are able to overcome. We are able to break whatever boundaries we are born to believe kind of hold us back. Especially if we are girls in this country who are conditioned to believe that maybe we deserve a little less than the boys. And I don't think that's true. I certainly don't think so. But then rather than just saying I don't think so, why? I thought, why don't I just show you? Look, there are girls here in this room with me right now who have just broken every barrier that the patriarchal world has put on us. But also when we look at women, powerful women, women who have made a name, women who have inspired the world and inspired the nation, we sometimes forget with our kind of, with all these starry-eyed kind of aspirations we have when we look at them, when they become role models, that they're also human beings and women who have gone through pretty much the same struggles that you and I would go through were we to ever take on the task of trying to beat the odds like they have. So that's why I wanted them to be here. Why is it that it's just Asha DeVos who is able to go into the oceans? Why is it that it's only Jayanti Kurutumpala who can summit Everest? Why is it only Sulochana Segera who can own this concept of women breaking the boundaries in the corporate world and women in management? Why hasn't it been common for more girls to do this?
So I think part of the problem is, first thing I want to put out there is, it's not just Asha DeVos who can do this, right? I mean, that's my common message wherever I go in the world is, I'm just a person, maybe I just work bloody hard, I mean, which I do. Maybe I'm just persistent, maybe I'm stubborn, maybe I'm really passionate, and maybe I've built the right support systems around me. But these are not things that I was born with, right? I mean, all of it is learned along the way. I have created and taken people on the journey, the right people who have continued to support me. So the common question I get a lot, especially from young people, so I'm in a very academic path, but there's a lot of adventure involved, so I kind of straddle a lot of different realms. And a lot of young people will say, but Dr. Asha, you know, my parents don't approve, right? And that's a fundamental thing. And I thought about it because I always talk about the fact that, you know, I have supportive parents. My parents said, do what you love, you'll do it well. I ran with that, right? And I was like, I'm going to be a marine biologist. They were like, okay. And I don't think they knew what a marine biologist looked like or what they did, but they believed in what they trusted that I knew what I wanted for my life, my own life. So that's one thing, is the fact that I think parents sometimes don't trust that their children know what they want, and they come from a space where they come with their life experience, which is a sliver of what's available out there, and that's inflicted on them, right? But the thing is, what I recently have started realizing is that people think it was just this easy relationship with my parents, where my parents were like, Shape, do what you want, and I was like this fellow child who ran around and did then, you know, whatever. But it wasn't. Like, it has probably taken more hard work than someone who went in a traditional path. Because I have had to convince them every step of the way of why, how, this is how I'm going to do it. I have had massive fights with my parents, right? They are my biggest supporters, but my massivest critics. And that's what's so powerful about the relationship, is that they didn't give up on me, I didn't give up on them. And I'm not saying everyone has parents as their support. You can have someone else. Can be your sibling, can be a grandparent. But we can't ask them to support us if we are not willing to give back. So with me, like I always say, the simplest thing I did was when I started diving, I bought a cheap underwater camera. I saved all my money, I bought that. Why? Because I wanted my parents to see what was down there, so they would not be afraid, which meant I was taking them on that adventure. If you want a team, you have to invest in that team, right? And that's what I think has helped a lot with me. And I mean, I work my ass off, right? Like, that's the bottom line. People see me running around and think, my gosh, what a super free life. If I'm in a tropical island somewhere in the middle of nowhere, that's because that's my work.
I find that even in sometimes the campaigns and the projects that I work with corporates or organizations who are trying to get more women into the workforce, they're trying to inspire younger women to come into industries that are not traditionally for women, like the IT industry, for instance. I've sort of gone to places around the country trying to get girls interested, and the first thing we have is these parents coming and saying, that's not for girls. No, if she's a teacher or she's a dancer, you know, or something like that, it's appropriate. But when it comes to the business world, lots of parents are very uncomfortable about her reaching beyond a certain place. Why is it that parents don't aspire for more?
So our parents has ultimate goal, that is to give your daughter in marriage, right? And if you look at the news,
2020, right?
even if it's 2020, you have to read all the newspapers' marriage proposals. So you have to understand it's not that parents, it's our education system itself. Because teachers are not aware of what are the corporate opportunities or business opportunities are there. So when they found, I would say like this, if they find someone who's so bright, they will help him to do maths, science or something and become. Teachers are not involved with children who are not bright with education, who are doing sports, and who are like someone like me. If you look at, I remember my mother hated to come to parents-teacher meeting because the teacher always say, you know, she's never in the class, she's in the ground, right? And she always asks questions. I've been always punished for asking questions, right? And my mother gets so angry and she shout at me and say, why you can't be like sister? Because my sister was a bright student, and I said, I never can be like her because my system was not that. When I left my corporate career to start a business, I still remember that office. I polished myself because I was a single mom at that time, and none of my family came to open that. Listen, they said, in our family, we do not have women doing business, and you had a corporate career, you are working for a multinational company, and now you are starting your own business.
Yeah.
And that was one of my, I think I became who I am to prove myself to my family because they didn't believe in me. And especially my mother, even though she loved my kids, she helped to take care, but she never believed that I can be that person.
Yeah.
Because she wanted me to be working for someone, come home by 5:30, which I was not used to it. And fortunately or unfortunately, I had a very support system from my two kids. So my son was someone who actually helped me to be who I am today because in his he went for a Catholic school and he was a very bright student, but due to my family issues, the teachers didn't accept him. They said, you are coming from a broken family, which even though he was a very good boy. So I have to learn about child psychology, personality development to develop my son. I think it's just the school system, education system, and also parents. And you cannot blame parents who are not educated. I think parents who are not educated want to see their children going places. Parents who are educated want to put that into that box and say, my daughter is this so and so, my daughter married so and so. This is the issue. We are blaming the uneducated parents. I think it's not there.
Yeah.
You have to have that awareness.
Yeah.
And parents should stop living for the society. You know, I remember I was not invited to weddings after my divorce for nearly 6 years, not for parties, because my family couldn't. Family couldn't see. Yeah, and my father's family got to know I was separated, I think, very recently because my father was not living and they didn't want anyone to be known. And I started going and telling I'm a single mother, right? Because no one was there to help me out. So I have to tell that I'm the breadwinner of my family.
Yeah.
So it's just that I think it's not the corporate life or not having, you don't say that there are jobs that women are not doing and we want to promote women to their job because our constitution clearly says that all the jobs opportunities are all human beings, all citizens. It doesn't say this is for male, this is for female.
Yeah.
Only in mining they have said you cannot get females onto that. That was on a, I think, biological issue, not for anything else. And I do not know why even the corporates say these are male-dominated jobs and we got females in. No, it's what humans are going to work, right? So why you need a gender for a business or a career? So I don't think that jobs are for gender. I don't think business are for gender. Sports for gender, and I don't think marriage is for gender. Same way I would say even parenting is not for gender.
When people have asked me what do you do, and if I tell them, okay, I run a company, a lot of the time, and I'm not even kidding, a lot of the time it's like, okay, because I'm middle-aged and I'm unmarried, so it's like, oh, you're the feminist type. You think, what the hell does that even mean? The feminist type, you know, this whole box we get put into, right, this label or whatever. So let's say I want to run a company and nobody thinks I can because, you know, girl, there's just so much you can do. But then what happens when you tell them you want to climb a mountain? Like, you're talking to parents of kids, girl children who want to climb mountains now because of you. How do you reconcile with what you're doing to the field?
Well, I mean, so this is the thing, I think going back to your previous question, and I'll link it up to this question as well. For me, what really helped in climbing that mountain was many factors, right? Not just me believing in myself, not only that, that's one part of it, which I had to learn over years. But how does one learn when you believe in yourself?
Yeah.
When society tells you that, you know, as a girl, you're not good enough, you're too dark, you're too skinny, or anything, all these comments, negative comments, right? But for me, what really helped was that there was an enabling environment right from like a young age. So where when I grew up in Delhi, I had lots of trees in my garden, and we had like a jack tree, coconut tree, three coconut trees, and my
You
father.
remember how many coconut trees you had in your garden?
Yes,
Three
I
coconut
actually
trees.
did. Yes, because I would
You climbed them. Okay.
and they're really tall, not those little short ones, right? And so my brother and I would climb them. I mean, I would climb coconut trees, not he would. But my father is the one who actually taught us how to climb. So my parents, I think, throughout our youth or when we were children, would encourage us to do that. And how many
Yeah.
parents would do that today, right?
Exactly.
And even thereafter, I mean, when I picked up the sport of rock climbing, it is a high adventure sport. There is a risk you can die if things go wrong.
Yeah, but even if you were a man, you can die.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, these sports are seen as not for girls. It's
Exactly,
dominated.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I had the opportunity. I was given the wings to fly, right? So my parents always allowed me to go and pursue those sports or just anything that I like, enjoy doing. Even when I picked up the sport of surfing, and I'm not a great swimmer, but I wanted to learn because it looked so cool and it was really nice.
Swam for school? No, you played
Yeah,
tennis.
no, I swam for quick school when there was no one else. One of those. But for the house things. But even surfing, I think it was like he was like, okay, if you're doing this, you wear a life jacket because it's safe. And I looked like an idiot on a surfboard with a life jacket, but at least I was able to do it with safety. And that was the key thing. If he taught me to climb safely, right? Basic skills. So what I'm saying is that was like a childhood, that support is important.
Yeah.
But then growing up, when I went to university, I discovered I learned about feminism. I did English literature, right?
Yeah.
And that was where in India, in Delhi University. And for me, that was where I was first introduced to the idea of feminism. And now over the years, I mean, then I subsequently joined a women's rights organization, a feminist women's rights organization in Sri Lanka called the Women and Media Collective. I was working there for 10 years and surrounded by really strong, amazing, courageous women and learning more and more what is feminism in practice, not just in theory.
Yeah.
And now when I think about it, like a lot of people, like you said, they're like, oh my god, feminist. It's like a bad
Yeah,
word.
it's-
Yeah.
Feminist. If
Exactly.
you're not married
Yeah.
by a certain time,
Yeah.
or if you're doing your
Or
own
you're
thing without
outspoken.
needing the sort of
Yeah. If you're independent. simple.
yeah, if you're independent,
And
if
if
you
you're
don't
not
need a
alone.
man to like support you or take you higher or whatever, feminist.
So for me, the definition that I like to use, because there are many feminisms, right? It's not
Yeah.
just one way. Many people might have their own beliefs of what it is. What I believe in, and there's a quotation by Kamala Basin, who's a well-known Indian feminist, and what she said was that if you're someone who accepts that there is discrimination in the family, in the workplace, in school, in religious institutions, in public spaces, and you do something to take action against it, you're a feminist. And when I think about how many girls actually have an opportunity to go hiking, because in Sri Lanka I found out now after coming back from this mountain is that we've been called to many schools to share the
Yeah.
story, and there are so many boys' schools that have actually sent a team of students to Everest Base Camp, which in itself has its own dangers. It's a 2-week journey, but there isn't a single girls' school who has still done that.
Yeah.
Why? Why
That's-
not?
yeah, why
and
not?
even if a school does allow, how many parents would allow their child to go for 2 weeks on a journey to base camp? But I feel you can learn so much more when you do that than in the books you read in school.
Yeah.
The textbook only gives you a certain amount of knowledge, but life experience teaches you so much about yourself, about people around you,
Yeah.
and what you can do. And that I think is somewhere where, so I was given that opportunity growing up, and I feel that is something that I'm privileged to have.
Yeah.
And that's another important factor, that
The privilege.
we all come with different privileges. I mean, I went to one of the best schools in Colombo.
And we might have to argue about this later. Right? Whatever. Keep going.
But just to say, I mean, a private school, I mean, how many people have that opportunity? But that also meant that my parents they did say, okay, as long as you get more than 50 marks, we're okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to get 100. I was never the first in class. I might have been like the last 3 in class, but I got more than 50, right? As long as I don't fail. Because then it gave me time to do extracurricular activities like tennis or other sports or do anything else, right? But that itself is a privilege. Being
Yeah.
able to go to university, learn about different ideas, knowledge, that's a privilege. Right?
So is it to say, okay, so
Yeah.
yes, all of us have had certain privileges, but we've also, like both of you said, like we've had to also prove ourselves to the doubters, right? But do you think then if there are girls out there who don't have those same privileges, that what do they need to sort of be able to access in that case? What can be made available to girls who want to dive into the deep blue sea, who like whale poop as much as you do, or who want to sort of start up their own businesses, which might not be the traditionally women-led kind of businesses. If they don't have the ecosystem that gives them the, I hate to use that word, but gives them the permission to do it, what can they do?
So I want to add something. So I think privilege is a big thing, but I think what we have to remember is everyone has a different kind of privilege.
Yeah.
So when we say, what about the girls who don't have the privilege, I think that's really unfair, because they do come with a certain kind of privilege, but it's not the privilege that we define as privilege because of what our privileges have been. So I think that's really important to remember. And we have to all, I think one thing is recognizing that someone else's privilege is, that's not what necessarily what you have to move forward. We all have to, first of all, I think one of the things we don't do enough, a lot of people, is take that time out for yourself to actually understand what does your life look like, what do you have available to you, right? What can I mobilize within myself, but that is I have access to get to that next step, right? So while, okay, you may have gone to one of the best schools in Colombo, again, for later argument, one of the best, so general, no, but you know, like you may have had that, you may have had your parents enabling you, right? Multiple things there, no, so but that doesn't mean you're going to be successful in what you want to do. That doesn't mean you're going to be a mountain climber. Right? It gives you
a chance. Actually,
you're given a chance. But actually, if you look around, and I think no, but the point is, I think what we do too much is tell people what privilege looks like.
Right. Yeah.
That, and we are boxing that as well, right? But what about if a girl lives on the beach, right? And she has access, and every day she goes to the beach, and she goes and puts her feet in the water, and she sees the stingrays swimming past. That's a privilege I didn't grow up with, but she has that privilege because she grew up there. Right? So what I'm saying is we are so good at defining what X, Y and Z looks like, that if people don't have that exact X, Y and Z, then they feel they can't do it.
I think that's an assumption anyway that a lot of even kids would, or even women would think, okay, Jayanti has, they assume, okay, because you don't see the hard work behind. Jayanti has sponsors, Jayanti has people to take her to Everest, Jayanti has the access, or Dr. Sulochana is now women in management. She has the network, she has the contact, she can get things done, she knows what buttons to push. Asha is known all over the world. Dr. Asha is hanging in Oxford, so what do they need to worry about, kind of thing. But I don't have that. I don't know how to start.
I think the fundamental thing we do wrong in anything, and I argue this in science, it's all about, we celebrate that end product, right? You look at a scientist, right? When you meet them, what's the first thing you know? You're like, oh my gosh, I've read their paper, and I'm using the scientific example because obviously that's my space, right? You have read all the scientific papers they have written. They have got, so many PhD students. They have a secure job. They are not sitting and telling you how they got to that place, right? So to me, and that's why, I mean, if you look at my Instagram and all, I mean, I'm like all out there, right? Because I want people to look at me and be like, oh my gosh, she has gone through that, like I have too. It's that relatability, right? They're so busy wanting people to think they're better than them that people don't tell the backstory. And my argument in anything is, there is no end product without a journey. And the journey is what makes it way more interesting anyways, right? Like if I didn't dig potatoes or potato fields and live in a tent and like there's a whole story behind that, nobody would want to talk to me today, because what's the point of a story? If you were born, you grew up with a scuba tank on your back, you got a job as a marine biologist and you're now working. I mean, there's nothing there. So I think honesty is something that we don't have. Nobody wants to say, well, I used to walk to school or I used to take the bus. Nobody. If they have achieved something, they're like, I only drive. I mean, people come to me and they're like, you should be driving a better car than that. So I tell them, I don't even have a car. I tell them I use my mother's car. I'm lucky. I have a bicycle. Because that doesn't define how I see my impact.
That's so cool that, I mean, exactly. I love that you said that, because I find that sometimes high achievers, whether they're women or men, our egos are so inflated with our achievements that we do show off. We do like to show like we are impenetrable and untouchable and all of this, and we put ourselves on a platform sometimes. I do think that is the case.
It's completely, it's අර කියන්නේ සිංහලෙන් කොළඹට කිරි ගමට කැකිරි, but people who are කැකිරි කණ්ඩාසා ඉන්න කොළඹින් හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ, අපිට හම්බෙන්නේ බෙහෙත් ගහපුවා. At least they are getting the original කැකිරි. So you have to understand it's the privilege depend on who you are and where you are coming from. And if now after Women in Management was started, I traveled a lot, right? I traveled all over the country. Then I felt I'm not privileged of living in Colombo or going to a Colombo school because I don't have that freedom. I don't have that what they are having. And අපි අර තාමයි අපි කියන්නේ කෙහෙල් කොලේ බත් එක කන්නාස because we don't get that, right? So it's not just having a school or having a background. I think it's just that because I have seen that. If I may say, Jayanti will a company or the school will invite you if you have never climbed the Everest. They will think twice. Oh, she's not married. She's a feminist, a girls' school. And if you have not been on to that level and having, they say she's not married and she's just she's putting. Girls' school, I'll definitely, especially the convent, they say they are giving wrong example. And I being divorced in my own school, they think twice to invite me because they're thinking that, okay, she's going to give a wrong example of marriage life.
Influence them to rebel against.
Yeah, so I always think people doesn't want to know your story unless you prove them you're successful in something.
Yeah.
Then only they want to know your story. And that also they will, if it is a man, they never ask, how you balance your home, whether you are married, whether your children, when you came here, did you feed your kids? They never ask you, right? But when a female comes, they will ask your background, whether your parents supported you.
I've asked that question back when they asked me, like, how do you juggle everything you do? Like, do you ask a guy who does like twice as much as I do? Do you ask that question? I mean, why should I have to juggle?
Yeah.
No, that because I think the culture we have, I think the culture was, I don't blame men because cultures are made by women, cultures are made by mothers, and that has to be changed. But I don't think it's a privilege, or three of us, I don't think it's a privilege, but I think we had a support system.
Yeah.
Right? We had good people around us, not that everyone was good. But I always say if people are praising you, they are not the right people. If people are saying negative to you, they are the right people to say that's not. So you have to be, I love people who say negative about you because yes, I get demotivated and looked at them and say, what the hell, I have done so much. But then that's give me the courage to find my inner strength. So I think young people there, they look to be, they wanted people to accept them. And they wanted to get into that circle. I don't look for, if you are the odd person, then you have a future. Because I have been always the odd person.
I'm very good about myself right now. If you're the odd person, you have a good future.
Yeah, I think because you don't have to be that person. And I always say you find your own self because others, all the balance you can Google it. So don't worry about this thing, find your own self because you have so much of strength. This I understood after I failed in my life. Why I say I have failed in my life, according to my whole family, they said, forget about it. Even if he comes in the night, you should be happy and married because you have one day your children will have a father and all this. And I was thinking, what the hell? Why should I have some life like that? I said, no, I'll give him the divorce. That day only all my family said, you are a failure. And that was the best thing happened to me. Because they called me a failure, I found myself. I found the strength to stand up for my children and my belief. Because I didn't want, we are still friends and I have the best mother-in-law in life and I always respect her. She's the only one who stood by me and she has supported all my life. So I think it's just that you have to believe in yourself. If people put you on this, let them.
You have a different take on that.
Yeah, but you were also telling me when we chatted about it on the phone that you had a lot of people questioning how you were capable of doing what you did, then questioning whether you were female at all at some points, right?
I think So that's the thing. I guess that's just points to gender stereotypes. I'll come back to privilege later because I have a completely different view. Based
that's
on my
also okay.
feminism.
Yeah,
And that's
that's
okay. There are different ways to think about it. But in terms of with Everest, I think, see, the thing is, I didn't climb. My dream was never to become the first person to climb. That was never a dream, right? My dream has been to climb this mountain and come back down the line. And remember, there were two of us climbing, right? So even whether we can get there, like for me, my fears were, there were lots of fears. Will I even make it to the top? Will I come back down the line? I was really scared. I wrote my last will before I went.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't tell, only one person knew about it, and the lawyer decided. But because there was a reality that I may not come back alive. So for me, what happens after was not even in my
Did you tell
head.
your family that you wrote your last will?
When I
Did
came
they know?
back.
Okay, yeah. Because I'm thinking they would not
No,
have
not
even kept
no.
you going if they knew you did that.
Yeah, so but the thing is, I think I had to face the facts that weather on the mountain can be really unpredictable, even with the best weather forecast, right? And the year before we had gone, the earthquake in Nepal killed about 19 climbers on the mountain. And 2 years before that, 16 people died in an avalanche in a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
And this, whatever weather predicts, it doesn't predict some of those things, right?
Yeah.
So that was a reality that I just didn't know. And so there was no idea of like what happens after coming back. It was all about, all the planning was about getting up there safely, coming back down, and that's it. But then, I mean, things happened differently. There was Johan's oxygen cylinder malfunction. We were not even together at the time on that last part of the journey.
Yeah.
Because we all walk at a different pace, and I was a slow one, right? So I actually went 1 hour earlier because I was a slow one.
I thought because you're lighter, you would have gotten up faster.
No, my cadence is short, you know. Everyone is like a Hulk out there. I'm like, I was the tiniest, of course. And people are like 3 times my size, and they are all these big, from around the world, big, muscular, buff people, like giants. And if they take 10 steps, I have to take 20 steps to keep up with people, and you're climbing up this way. Like,
Sounds like a metaphor for life with women
pretty
anyway.
much. Yeah. But so that's the thing. So I think when what happened was that it just so happened that I ended up becoming the first person because Johan had turned back, which was a very courageous thing to do, right? And I think he's a hero for turning back. Lots of people here saw him as a failure.
And trying again.
Of course,
That's
yeah.
huge.
But even before
That's
trying again, he was seen as a failure for turning back, which is a huge problem, right? But it also shows how people view men and masculinity. There's a lot of pressure there. But for me, then when I came back, and I'm not a public person, I hate cameras like this.
Yeah.
I hate public.
So don't think about
No
it.
camera.
That's Shanti's GoPro and that's Shanti's iPhone.
Oh.
So that's why.
Anyway, but the thing is, I think when I came back, then there were comments I heard. No one told me directly to my face, but some people had said, like can't be a girl. No, I mean short hair.
Do you
No
get that as
makeup.
well?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, right. And then there was the best part, I think, was that it was almost like, okay, if she is a woman, then she must be Johan's wife. So a couple of papers said, Johan can be doing this and that, and of course.
what
Then
is
the other thing is, if I did climb, then there was another comment someone said, so Johan was going back 2 years later, right? And someone actually then before on his way, there was a huge media like publicity around that second journey. And then there was this guy who in the advertising industry who called me and said, look, there is this rumor going around, but I want to call and check directly with you because he had worked with me before. And he said, is it true that on the first attempt, Johan couldn't make it because he sacrificed his cylinder for you?
Wow.
And I was like,
I can't.
of course, I mean, this is
I
our
know.
plan. We were not even together. Like, it feels
I
like
know, I
people can't get
can't.
that head around a woman doing something before man.
Yeah.
And I learned that only when I came back that actually Sri Lanka is the 4th country in the world where a woman has climbed this mountain, Everest, before a man. Right? Now again, I didn't do it for any of the statistics. The
Yeah,
journalist
yeah,
told me
yeah.
this. But that point, so who gets access to climb mountains?
Yeah.
Boys do. In our country, boys go mountaineering. Girls do not get that permission, get that access. That's male privilege. Right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
girls are
I
there.
have to agree because even though the law might say no, it's
Yeah,
gender
boys
equal
are
for everyone.
very-
Even if you look at the sports industry,
Absolutely,
right?
no, no.
The amount of investment that goes into the male sport
Yeah, for
versus
sure.
the female teams.
Yeah, the cricket, female cricket is really good, but they are not rich as the male cricket.
Also,
Yeah, you don't even know they're playing.
the only thing that we actually put money into, no, we don't actually.
Even
not even
netball, I mean,
gymnastics.
the national netball team was struggling to go to the final, the global one
Yes.
last year in UK, and they were looking for people to get nutritional supplements like and clothing and gear.
Basic stuff.
Basics, which they didn't have access to. This is national Sri Lankan netball team.
Yeah.
Where is the money?
Because I think that's itself, the corporate doesn't want to they want to associate their brand with male figures than female, but where the customers are females, right? 60% of the Sri Lankan customers, actually the customers are female. I always say just think twice whether the country, whether your business will stop if the men stop working for one day or if women stop shopping for one day, right? It's the other way around. If females stop going to the supermarkets, shopping their clothing or buying anything, then the business,
Don't stop cooking.
Yeah, or look after the kids.
look, yeah.
Chaos, no? So, but going back to the whole man thing, I mean, how often people like, so I get these three things quite often. One is, good, you're doing a good job, but that's a man's job, no? So then I say, no, but like, you don't have to be a man or a woman to care for something, and that's all I do. I care for the ocean, right? So, does it matter if I'm female or male, right? Or they'll say, congratulations, so proud of you. So, when are you getting married?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, can you put that, just breathe in between, right? Make it two sentences. Because the whole thing, like my achievements are overshadowed by my lack of marriage right now, right? Like that's the problem. So I can, if anybody in this country was a woman and won a Nobel Prize, but if she didn't have a husband, I mean, then it's not worth it,
Either
right?
she's gay
or that she's dysfunctional. I mean, there's a whole lot of things, right? And then the other thing is, like even for me now, I go out with fishermen, right? Like I sit on boats, I have fishermen driving. So one time this guy says, and this is of course not the only time, but I just love this story. He looks at me and says, in Sinhala, he says, your husband doesn't mind that you're getting black in the sun. So I said, maybe it's good I don't have a husband. He says, I thought as much. So it just shows that mentality, right? I mean, how does my color matter, right? Like whether I'm getting black or white. I've been told, yeah, I went, no, hurry. Then I used to go for swims at lunchtime, right? Like just because that was a convenient time to swim in a pool and nobody there, so I love it. And the pool attendant, after about 2 weeks of this, now she can see she's watching, she wakes up from her slumber just to notice me coming and going out. And then she turns and says, when you came, you were white and beautiful, now you're black and ugly. Literally, those are the words she used. And I was like, I love being dark. Like, I have no problem. Actually, my skin color doesn't bother me because I spend so much time in the sun. If it bothered me, I can't go down this path, right? Like, let's be honest, right? But to me, like, how much does it matter? It doesn't make you a better mountain climber, you know, when your skin is black or white. I mean, I tell people, you don't wear your intelligence on the outside. You don't wear your capability on the outside. You don't wear your ability to create impact in the world on the outside. You don't wear your ability to inspire a next generation on the outside. It's not what you wear, it's not the car you drive, but we live in a society that's very, very superficial. And these are all coming from that very superficial space. So you can be good, but there are certain criteria that make you the best. You're not married, you drive your mother's car, it's also a small car, it's a nice small, it's so convenient. I walk a lot. Right. Someone once said to me, so I was Sri Lankan of the Year or something a few years ago. This person said, amazing. The magazine arrived on my desk, LMD, Sri Lankan of the Year. There you were, right? He said I was so proud, no? But that afternoon I was driving down Java Road and you were walking. So I'm now thinking of what exactly is. Yeah, he's like, Ayuna, I have never seen a Sri Lankan. He said, I have never seen a Sri Lankan of the Year walking on the road. So then I was really confused. Like I was like, how, like, do they teleport? Like what exactly happens in their lives that I don't know about? But you know what I mean? Like that is, like how is that a judgment on what a person is or who they are, what they're doing for the world, right?
People assume that once you have achieved, those struggles end because now you have a name, now you have the fame, right? That things will be easier. Can I ask you two-part question? One is, do you still struggle, and if so, how? Whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, whether it's financial, whether it's whatever in your whatever work that you do. And two, as women, do you feel safe?
I think I don't know whether I feel safe or others feel safe around me, but people, mainly men, have said that to my face, you always talk about women issues, you say children are getting abused and all. That's why I've always said that's the truth. Then I think the issue is male doesn't understand how it affects a woman. This is what I have understood. And I don't think I'm not.
Some men who do, but
No, it's just that I think that's the emotion, because if it happened to your daughter, many of the fathers, male, understand, but a lot of people, I think that's, I do not know why it is, but I have felt that. And I don't blame men, because I always say, because my son recently asked, where can I report something about against male happening? I said, why you want? No, I have you, Nangi at home, and my grandmother, and my dog also feminine, right? And I was like, what? Yeah, I'm the only guy, so I'm having that. I said, okay, you can always. I said, no, you know, women doesn't know the privilege. You have to speak out. But when males speak out, they say, right? So that is also, I think, we have to be fair about men also, because young boys get abused than young girls. Unfortunately, they are not getting pregnant. Saying that, as she said, what people look at you and all that, I think recently last 3 years my health has been not good because I ignored. But 1 year ago I had a issue and my womb was removed, and I still remember a friend I call best friend, and who is now leading a women organization. She came to me and she said, now you got a privilege, you have no womb and you will not get pregnant, at least now use your feminine to get and do something for yourself. And I was like, what the hell she's talking about? I felt so hurt, because people think because you speak about women, we don't have emotions, we do not want to go out, we do not, we hate men and all those stuff. It's not that. And everyone requests you to, I was told to wear saris, said you are not talking about women, ensure your dress code is nice. And I hated it, because I wanted to be natural, because I used to have a figure like that, but because my I think health condition, I had a lot of issues. Then only I shifted to a sari. So I have been wearing very short skirts and all that. After divorce, I was not allowed to wear from my family, but I changed it. If my kids were not okay, why should I worried about it? But if you ask me whether I'm okay with after being knowing, I don't think I'm okay, because people watch you and people want you to be perfect and people want you to walk with that success. As she said, you are Sri Lankan and you are walking on the road, which I don't want. I want them. It's a bigger pressure, and I don't care actually what people think, but they expect, because if you want to go and give a speech, they expect you to be that woman, and I cannot be that woman.
So when you ask, like, once you achieve success, which I put in inverted commas, because do you still have struggles? I think that's a interesting question, because it depends on what your idea of success is. I always say that, like, if I win an award or whatever, that's not a measure of my success. That is just a high five on this long path marathon. I have not achieved even a tenth of what I want to achieve in life. So I don't think, I'm still going, young, youthful, no, I must use that youth forever, I have time. But no, I'm not enough time for marriage, I'm over the hill for that, but now I made space. So, but genuinely, I think it just depends on what you want out of life. And for me, like, I have so many things I want to do. I started the first marine conservation research and education organization in Sri Lanka. My whole thing is to get a whole new generation of marine scientists on the ground working, like, empowered to kind of look after our oceans. We have 8 times more ocean area than land area, right? Nobody knows, nobody cares, right? And so I want that to shift. I want also to empower people from our region. So a lot of my work is around, this idea of colonial science, where you have foreign scientists coming to our countries, doing work and leaving and taking everything with them, right? And not investing locally on the ground. And I'm trying to change that globally, right? So there's a lot of things that I want to do. For me, like, I mean, the struggles are like ongoing. It's life. Life is a struggle, right? And that's, in some ways, that's the beauty of life, because those struggles, and people think failure is a negative thing, right? But it's not. It's your greatest teacher, right?
What
If-
about emotional struggles though? I mean, it can get really
All the
lonely at the top, you know what they
Of
say?
course. I mean, if anyone follows me on Instagram, you will see these are themes I address. I have talked about loneliness, right? And you won't believe how many people reach out to me after they read those, because suddenly they're like, you feel it, then it's okay for me to feel it. And I'm like, I feel it because I'm like you. That's what we want people to realize, right? Of course, loneliness, you know, like who doesn't want to have a companion for life? But I don't want the wrong companion for life, right? Like that's the difference. Who doesn't want to have financial security? I mean, if I don't have it, fine, as long as I leave an impact on the world. But of course, I sometimes want to just be able
Is
to be
it
like not
okay to
rushing.
put on a publicly that you're emotional, because people call and
I-
say why you're putting it? It's we
I-
look at
I-
you for inspiration and you're putting us down.
No, I never have that. I mean, I don't know if it's how you put it out there or what. I have only ever had people just basically write to me and say, you know, I was having a horrible day. One girl was like, I was feeling suicidal and I read this and it changed everything, right? And I think it's so important for people like us who are people like us, and again, inverted commas, because there's nothing special about us apart from the fact that we're very
Yeah.
big-headed and we want to do what we want to do.
The blue waves.
Yeah, exactly. A few of them. But the point being, you know, I think it is important for us to be very honest with our audiences, and a lot of we can go down this path. Instagram and all, there's a lot of dishonesty and a lot of embellishment, and the whole idea of an influencer. There's nothing that annoys me more when people call me influencers, so that's a whole other thing. But there is so much artificial curation that goes on that when people see something where there's a person who's being really honest, I think they just click on it. I don't have millions of followers, and I don't even want millions of followers. I want people who just feel empowered by me living my best life so they can live their best lives. That's it, right? So I think the struggle goes on, and it was silly for us to think that any of it ends, okay? And you also always have a new challenge, no? I mean, life is not without it. It's not plain sailing. No one is sitting at their 80th birthday party thinking like, I've conquered everything, look at me, I'm sweet. No, right? And with age it changes, with circumstance it changes. You don't know, life is unpredictable, right? COVID-19 has rocked people's worlds in ways we didn't understand. So you're never prepared for it. But the bottom line is, how do you define your own success? And if you have a long path, then you'll always struggle. And then on the other side, do I feel safe? I mean, to me,
You are on the boat with fishermen.
I take precautions with everything. I have teams. I never let my young teams go out on their own. I make sure that there's pairs, whether it's two girls or a boy and a girl, I don't care as long as there's multiples. I'm very cautious, and I think that's what we've learned to be. It's a protective mechanism. I run around Colombo famously in my shorts and my skinnies, which upsets people as well. They're like, yeah, but you run in shorts. I'm like, but I run in
But
shorts.
you also say like,
Yeah.
you have those moments. Right?
Yeah, of course. You run on Marine Drive, for example. I mean, Marine Drive is full dodge, right? Like, there are aunties and uncles walking, but there are guys in cars just, hanging around, leering. It's very common. So you learn protective measures too. But it's not because I'm Asha that it's a problem. I think that being safe is something that, feeling unsafe is something that everyone experiences. Whether you're Jayanti or Sulochana or Asha, whatever, Shanuki or whatever, right? It's not, so where you are in your career, whatever, it doesn't give you an added protective bubble, I think. You may become more of a target for certain things. That's possible. Where they know your name and therefore it's easier for them to come at you. I think it's about being smart also, how you use your spaces, how you use your voice, how you interact. And I'm also fairly antisocial, which helps because I can tend to I have my close friends and I have my family, and I just don't, I'm not a person who puts myself out into the world for no reason. I think those are that's my personality as well, but I think that's kind of helpful. But I think, you don't become, there's no force field that builds out around you, right?
What about the woman who climbed Everest? Do people
Well-
leave her alone?
I suppose some people might,
Yeah.
but I think in terms of the struggle, when I was trying to think, listening to you talk, I think the struggle, to be really honest, for me has been this public space that I've been thrown into,
Yeah.
which is not a space, I'm still getting my head around it.
Yeah.
It's a space that I think is a huge opportunity, because as a women's rights activist, as a feminist, I think that's when initially, right in the beginning, I remember where my initial reaction was I wanted to go back into the mountains and just hide from all the publicity.
Yeah.
Because there was like a barrage of media publicity. But then there was this incident that happened in a school in Kurunegala, right, where both Johan and I were talking, doing a motivational speech. Or we were just talking about climbing Mount Everest to the kids there. And it was a small school, a rural school, it was a mixed school. And usually we share the presentation. He starts and then I speak and then he speaks and then I close it. But I always close it by talking about challenging gender stereotypes, right?
Yeah.
That no matter what our gender, we need to follow our dreams and we need to push and fight and argue and demand and explain to people that this is what you want to study or this is a sport you want to do and do that. When we finished this speech, I remember there were these, so lots of boys went to Iman and the girls came up to me. And then at some point there were these 5 girls and they would have been like around the age of 11, 12 and 13. And they said something that I think is what really pushed me more into the public space. But they said, we are really happy that you became the first person to climb Mount Everest from Sri Lanka. So I said, okay. I said, why do you say that? Then they said, because you have shown us that girls can also come first. So I said, okay, girls can come first, boys can come first, anyone can come first if you really work hard and you're passionate about something and you do your best, you also can come first. It doesn't matter whether you're a boy or a girl. And then they said, no miss, and they said it quietly, no miss, because our sports teacher has always told us that boys are always first and girls are second. And I was just like, oh.
These are the educators.
Yeah, but then I thought, oh my God, these 11-year-olds were now able to realize that their teacher had said something that doesn't make sense to them. And the story that we shared was useful for them to see that they can also push and do what they want to do one day. I thought, okay, I'm just going to keep sharing the story. And even guys who told me, like even young boys were like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you spoke about stereotypes because I hate rugby and I hate cricket. And my parents want me to do this, but I just want to do like painting or I want to be an artist. But there is that pressure too. So I think the struggle though is that that I have to keep going public places. But also I think the struggle is that how do we get this message out enough so that other girls and men and boys and girls and women can also have those access to equal opportunities. And coming back to the privilege question, I have a privilege in many ways. And I think for me it's important that each of us acknowledge and try and identify what our privilege is, because our privilege can help others who don't have privilege.
Right.
And I still believe there are many who don't have the same privilege. Like think of COVID.
Yeah.
All in the same ocean, but some of us in luxury rafts, luxury yachts, let's say. Some are not even having a life jacket on like a paddle, like a raft, right? So that's the privilege. Like how many people actually had water from a tap to wash their hands? How many people had to buy the soap?
Yeah.
If you had money to buy only like vegetables or something to eat, right? That's privilege, class privilege, right? That I was born, you're born in class privilege.
Yeah.
You're born in the job. I was fortunate during the 3 months of lockdown. I had a job that paid me a full salary. So I could go and buy. I lived in a neighborhood. I could go jogging in the morning safely. That's privilege, middle class privilege that not everyone has. So that's what I mean by privilege. But I mean the struggle is how do we get this message out about challenging stereotypes?
Yeah.
All stereotypes, racial, stereotypes about sexual orientation, about gender identity, about sex, on gender. There are so many stereotypes which inhibit us. And if all of us are allowed to just be ourselves and follow our dreams, but the thing is we have to realize that these stereotypes are made by society.
Yeah.
And if society is all of us, then we can break those. And we need to break those and create our own rules. In terms of safety, I mean, I don't feel, it's not like the whole country knows who I am. So there is a
Yeah, but given your stature and all that, do you feel like there are people
my size as in like
who
tiny
question
size.
it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who question it, who try to overpower you or whatever. Do you feel like there's someone, you know how the male ego takes a big hit, right? And I'm not talking about Johan, I'm talking about the guys who just cannot reconcile with the fact that you went first.
So there was another guy, actually 2 guys. One was this American Marine I met at a wedding immediately after I came back. I was not in the country, somewhere else. And someone introduced me to him and said, do you know who she is? And I'm like, no, we have just met, how is he doing anyway? And so then my friend was like, oh, she's the first person to climb Mount Everest from Sri Lanka. And he's like, oh, you're the first woman to climb Everest from Sri Lanka. And my friend was like, no, she's the first person. Then he was like, you mean no other guy has climbed before you? And I was like, no. And then he was like, his first comment was, oh my gosh, you must have emasculated all the Sri Lankan men. That was his first comment. And I was like, okay.
But let's call a spade. There would have been plenty of men who felt emasculated with that.
But the thing is, but that shows the fragility of masculinity.
Yeah.
Another guy told me here in Sri Lanka, he was like, my dream was also climbing. He was a little bit drunk, I think I was at a bar. My dream was also climbing Everest, but you stole that from me. And then he said, "Oya api no nikara, oya gilla first nagane." And I'm like, okay, can't be here. I'm sorry, too bad. Deal with it. But so this is the thing. I guess it's a thing.
Personal, no? Scene.
I guess it's the way people are also, boys are brought up. That
Yeah.
you have to be macho, strong, the man, always be first. And if you're crying, you're a woman, like you're weak, right? So these are all gender stereotypes that also affect boys and men.
Yeah.
So I'm saying men and boys also need to challenge and question those stereotypes, not only women and girls.
As much as
all of us in society need to do that, so that all of us and the future generations can actually access those opportunities.
Do you all feel used in your having your platform? Do people try to use it?
All the time.
All
Can
the
I just
time.
tell you what people don't understand? One of the things is there's an opportunity cost for all these extra things we do, right? We have all got full-time jobs, right? Every day someone will call me and expect me to do something for them because of who I am. And they tell me, it's good for your career. But if my career didn't exist, would they come to me? No, right? So there's constant use, right? And you joked about having an agent, but honestly, if I didn't have an agent, right? I mean, it costs me time and money to be in a space like this, right? And that's what people don't value. People just expect that because you're in a position, you have to do everything free. You have all this free time to do it because you're super. And if, as a conservation, I can tell you, exploitation is high. Why? Because you're a bleeding heart, no? I mean, I care about that ocean. I'm looking at it right now. Every time I look at the ocean, I'm working right now, just FYI, because I can see the ocean. But my point being that, you know, my heart and soul is in trying to make a difference there and trying to make a difference for everybody who I think believe can help to make a difference there, right? So there is that time, but then beyond that, everything costs me energy, time, money, and people don't take that. They just assume, then she loves it so much, of course she's going to do it for free. This is crazy, right?
A lot of people think when you're doing women work, it's charity, which I hate to do it, right?
Oh, God.
And because when I started in 2009, when I wanted to get it registered, it was rejected, saying you have to go as a charitable organizer, which I refused. I said women is not equal to charity. But fortunately or unfortunately, I've been taken granted, and they think I should be available for each and every problem a woman has in this country. If a women politician makes a false this thing, they call and say, here you see, that's settled. So I'm like, what the hell, what can I do, right? So same way, when an award winner make a mistake, they call, you gave award, why can't you recall? I still remember one lady police officer, right? It was a fundamental cause. I think it was not that she has been accused on this. She lost a case, right? So this press called me and said, you know, and the verdict was given at 10:20. I still remember the time. By 10:30, this call came and said, are you going to recall that award? And I was, what award? They said, you know, you have given in this year, and this happened, it happened last year. So I just told him, how many police officers in this country got awarded, and how many rape cases or burglary cases against the male? Why you are just looking at that female? And you want me to recall that award? And I was just shocked how it was in the media. And I just kept silent. So every time when a woman makes this thing, it comes to me. And I just keep silent because I didn't want to justify or anything, because no point of talking. But then again, they take me for granted that they never value my time. I've seen it very much. I come from HR background, so when a female has a corporate issue, they call me, and I've spent more than 1 hour drafting their letters, explanation and everything. But they think it's my duty to do that. But they don't, if they do that for a professional, they will charge. They don't have taken it, and I have never, and every time my business partner say, why you don't, unless you stand up for your profession, no one is going to stand up for you.
But it's true, like even now recently someone wrote to me and there's like anything related to the ocean, right? She wrote me this really aggressive WhatsApp message, right? Like, well, first was not aggressive. First was, you know, we need your help to do this, blah, blah, blah. Now, she has a full-time job where she's making plenty of money. This is the only ocean cause that has pinched her, possibly because there's some personal interest in it. And then she says, you know, we need to talk to you, we need this thing. So I wrote back and I said, with all due respect, we work on these particular causes, right? Now I can't, I mean the ocean is 70% of our planet. I mean I can't be working on every cause. I also have to be smart, right? So then I said, look, I unfortunately I don't know enough about this particular topic, so I can't get involved. But you know, I'm sure there are other experts. I got this grating message back. I thought you'd care, you are supposed to be marine conservationist, this and that. And I was like, you know what, like I don't need any of this, right? And I said, you know, I thought you'd appreciate that I was honest about the fact that I could or could not help. And to me, that is more valuable than me saying, yes, she's like, oh, you obviously think we want you for your face for this campaign. I said, anyway, I wasn't going to give you my face. And she's like, but don't worry, we have other experts. So I was like, peace, then go use, I mean, you know what I mean? But it's this demand. It's like, and it's really, I mean, it leaves a really bitter taste in your mouth because I do my work with a lot of joy.
It might sound a little sexist, but the future is female, right? And that's something that the world is sort of moving in that direction. Not that it's only female, it's just that the world or the past and the present has been predominantly male for a while. And I do think we are showcasing the fact that we are capable with their help, with them by our sides as allies, but that we are more than capable of running this show if we wanted to. Right? What do you think?
Well, I don't know where the world will go, but what I can say is that if you're out there and you're thinking that nothing is working out the way you want to sometimes, and that happens to all of us, but what I believe in is that there are gender stereotypes around us which place pressure on women, particularly women and girls, about what we need to do in life. What education we have to do, when we have to get married, how many children to have, what job to have, everything. It's all planned out. But I would say question that. Where is it coming from? Who put those rules down? Right? Who says you can't wear a short skirt and go wherever you want to go? Right? Yes, there are dangers if you go on the street after 8 p.m. Like I wouldn't do that. Even in shorts, I won't go at 7 o'clock when it's dark. Right? So take those precautions. We all have to. Right? But I'm saying question the stereotypes. Just because there is pressure to get married, if you don't want to get married, don't do it. Yeah. You will do it in your life and your partner's life. And everyone around you will tell you a million things. But you have to shut all that out and think about what do you want, because you will be living on for another, if you're 20 now, you're going to live on at least another 40, 50 years, yeah, right? So you have a life ahead of you. People around you telling you get married at 20 might be already in their 80s or 70s. A very short life to live, so don't live for them. But I think question that, because these norms and stereotypes are not written in stone. They are made by a male-dominated society, which is what we call patriarchy, right? And then if you find out these rules about women can't go to a temple, women can't become monks, priests, you know, the Anglican Church now has some women priests. But where are these rules? Why can't a woman be a priest? Right? Why can't a woman go into a temple, a Hindu Kovil, when she has a period? Who makes those rules? Society, men in society. And if society is made by all of us, we need to change those rules and break those rules and make our own rules so that we can then live our life with the values we believe in. And for me, the values are equality for all.
Yeah, so I would add to that, I think. I would say one thing is we all lived our own timelines, okay? This is rubbish. This whole like, I was told at 25, now you're over the hill. No, now I won't ask about marriage. I was so happy because this lady asked me about marriage every year up to that point. And then I was like, now if that means you're going to stop asking me, then I'm really happy I'm over here, right? But these timelines are just social constructs, right? They are not, they don't mean anything. They're just written in air, right? So but you got to live your life. I always say, you know, you're the only person who's in your life from the moment you're born to the moment you die. So living for someone else is only going to make you miserable, right? And yeah, it's challenging. I'm not saying life is easy. My gosh, it's false if people tell you, oh, I got this, I did this, and make it sound so simple. It's not, right? But it's all about that adventure. It's all about the journey after all, right? And I say, you know, especially to girls, I'll say, look, we have to work harder. It's a very unfortunate space, but we are in a transition point in this world, right? So let's work harder, right? And what you want eventually is to become the necessity. You don't want people in the room because you're a gender, because of your gender background. You want to be in the room because they can't actually solve the problem without you. That's where you want to get in life, right? And that is, I mean, when I started, you know, I used to go for meetings, government meetings, and they would ignore me because I was too young and too female. Today, there's so many issues they can't resolve without me in the room. That is where I wanted to be, right? So you have to dust it off a little bit, which is unfortunate, but that's where we're going to go, right? But use your gender to empower others. Because as a woman, you are, I mean, if there are, now there's still only a few women in the limelight, right? So yes, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to blaze those trails so others believe they can, so they're inspired and motivated and they follow through. But then I also want to say, if there are like parents watching or adults watching and they have young kids, I say, you know, if you have sons, bring them up to have women role models. Because I think the biggest thing is, what happens is they don't see courageous, strong, like determined, daring women in their lives all the time, right? All they see is, unfortunately in many cases, especially in our society, mothers who do what the fathers want, right? But introduce them to these amazing women, because then when they grow up and they go into the workplace, when they meet one of these women, they're not like, oh my goodness, now I must, the only reaction I can have is, yeah, and the only thing I can do is talk down to her or try to make her feel bad about who she is and what she is, because I don't know how to deal with that. And that is where this comes from. They don't know how to deal with us. Right? So teach your kids, teach boys, girls, fruits, flowers, I don't care what you have, right? Teach them that everyone has power and everyone has something to change the world, and allow them to believe that it doesn't matter what that gender and background is, but that person is doing good for the world, that person is changing a life, that person is inspiring a whole generation. That's what you want your kids to live up to.
When you have corporate men coming for panels, discussions, don't even ask what's your wife is doing, because most of the men who comes as inspirational speakers, if you ask them where is your wife, my wife is a housewife, right? So he comes there and he speaks because wife has ironed his clothes, wife have done everything. So I don't call them inspirational men at all. I call them, they are more dependable, right? If you have an inspirational man talking about saying, I'm here because my wife helped me to be in this, and I've been helping my wife doing the cooking and all that, that's called inspiration man. So don't get men to speak on a platform if they do not share their house, you know, this thing, and I think that's where you would be having if you want to make a change from leadership, not from the bottom. Sri Lanka want to change from the bottom. You're not going to change from leadership. And don't try to dress for others. I always say women never dress for others. Women dress for ourselves with our convenience. Whether when we have not shaved, we don't want to wear a short skirt, right? So when we have our dates, we do not want to wear like that. So we dress for ourselves and to annoy some women, not to men, because men, the figure itself, whether you are a woman, they get excited. That's how we have been brought up. That's how the God. So don't think men as your competitor. Men are not your competitors at all. We have to work with men and we have to love men. And also the women, don't try to be another woman. You cannot be that woman. Work with them, be happy with another woman, and then life would be easy for us.
And I'm going to wrap up now, but there's one little question which might not even make it to the edit, but I'm so curious to know. We are women, we have biological functions. What happens when you have your period on Mount Everest or in the middle of the ocean? Like honestly, what do you do?
You just have it. You have to use it like anyone else. But it's tough.
Because you don't have the access to the toilet facilities and all of that.
Wet wipes, which are frozen sometimes, so that means no wet wipes also. Toilet paper, no water, really tough. And then for me, I mean,
just getting those wet wipes in there is going to be a task.
Because it's freezing and the layers and
have you been in that situation?
Yes, and I actually took the pill before, but it didn't work. I think your body functions differently at high altitude, so which is why sometimes.
So you came on easy.
Yeah, and it's harder because anyway your blood is thicker with low oxygen. So it just made it hard that I was losing blood and I had to crawl like that. There are days of
And
walking
not to
like 7
mention the
hours.
fatigue and all that you feel with all
So
of
which
that,
more
right?
imagine when your blood is sick and you're losing blood. So it's actually a harder journey for women biologically, but it's possible. You just
You
do
feed
it.
the fish?
You know what my tent but you know what my tent mate would say?
I know, completely
Yeah.
appropriate.
My tent mate was Australian and she would say this thing. She would just say, "Suck it up, princess, just do it."
Yeah.
Which I was like, yeah, actually.
But it's true, no? We live. I mean, okay. They're talking. You asked this question like a period is like some magic thing, no? But it's not. It's a part of our lives every day. So as women, we have always had to adapt. So if you plan a trip to Everest, there's a chance. I mean, there's a very good chance you're going to get a period. When I go out to sea all the time, there's a very good chance that at some point in my field season, I'm going to be on a boat in the hot sun, standing for 8 to 10 hours on a moving boat, right, hell or high water, and I'm exhausted. My body is like, things are going on inside me. I know they're happening, but if I gave into that, then every month for a week I have to just lie on my bed. No, I mean, I can't. You don't live that life. So as women, I mean, it's just how it goes. You know, you just learn to adapt. Now I learned the magic of the menstrual cup. My gosh, it changed my life, right? Because you don't have to change so often. You don't. I mean, for us, we don't have. Sometimes we go on boats. We don't have toilets on the boat, right? So what do you do? How do you change? How do you? So, but because as women, I mean, as women, we are adaptable. Bottom line. Right? We'll survive anything, we'll get around it, we'll figure out a way, and this is a fine example of that. We have grown up that as a woman you're going to get your period, and that's it. It's just another day in our lives, and
We deal with it.
suck it up, princess.
That's true. Suck it up, princesses. If you're watching, thanks a million to all three of you for coming on board. This was such a super show. I feel inspired. I know we usually talk about very heavy stuff and very sort of kind of issues that leave me drained at the end of every shoot. I know that there's even my crew, we all have so much on our minds when we finish this because we feel so low sometimes and it takes a while to get over. But this particular finale, I'm so glad that this happened because I feel like there's nothing stopping us, and I don't think there should be anything stopping you, whoever is watching, whether you're male or female, from really changing the way we do things and turning this place around. We have so much potential as Sri Lankans. I believe the world, just like the world might underestimate the power of women, I think the world also underestimates the power of Sri Lankans in a lot of ways. You know, they just think we're these little brown natives in the middle of nowhere, you know, incredibly mad people. But I think if we have women in Sri Lanka who have shown the world that we are a force to be reckoned with, why not the rest of us, right? So, and I hope you keep that thought with you. And because it's our finale, we're going to take a break. We need to take a break. So we'll probably see you again in a couple of months. But until then, let's keep talking about these taboos, and please never, ever, ever shh.